I'm Jim Hummel. Before we turn the page to 2019, we have new information on a handful of our Hummel Report investigations from this year, beginning with the latest on the rideshare wars at Green Airport.
The standoff between Uber and the airport continues, but customers using Lyft now have a better option for pickup. Over the past 2 months, the Rhode Island Airport Corporation has created an additional lane in what it calls the outer roadway, located between the short-term lot and the lanes directly adjacent to the terminal, for Lyft drivers to pick up their customers. It's the same roadway where shuttle buses and taxis wait for their passengers. And that means Lyft passengers no longer have to walk to the short-term lot or pay the $6 minimum fee for drivers to enter. The Lyft passengers are now tracked through geofencing technology, and Lyft pays the airport $4.50 per passenger, down from the $6 it was paying a year ago. Meanwhile, the word Uber is nowhere to be found on airport property, since the rideshare company reached a deal in June to pick up its passengers at the privately owned Red Beam Garage C. It's adjacent to the airport-owned Garage B, but a 200-foot walk from the terminal with no good sidewalk to get there. Uber passengers pay a $3.36 surcharge to be picked up at Garage C. Several Uber drivers tell the Hummel Report there is still confusion among passengers not familiar with Green Airport and difficulty getting to the pickup location at Garage C, especially with the weather worsening. The drivers complain that the airport signs directing passengers to rideshare companies implies that Uber might be available when it is not. Meanwhile, revenue from the short-term lot, where rideshare companies previously were required to pick up all passengers, has steadily declined since July, when the airport received just shy of $185,000. It was down to nearly $142,000 in October, the latest figures available.
Remember the vacant property that the Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency planned to move its headquarters to? Well, now we found another high-profile state agency may be claiming it.
This former printing company on Colorado Avenue was supposed to be the new location for the DOT's materials testing lab when the Federal Highway Administration put up millions to buy the property in 2012. But Peter Alviti pulled the plug on the project when he became DOT director in 2015. When the feds started asking for their money back, DOT started talking with the Rhode Island EMA about buying the property and relocating its headquarters from Cranston. Since our report, that deal fell through. But now the State Board of Elections, located for decades at 50 Branch Avenue, has its eye on Colorado Avenue. The executive director tells the Hummel Report Elections is being displaced by the State Medical Examiner's Office and needs new space. Still unanswered, how the state will pay for what is expected to be an expensive renovation. It is unlikely the board will be moving there until after the 2020 elections.
In 2018, we investigated sitting councilmen in 3 different communities. After our stories ran, 2 decided not to run, and a third was defeated in November.
Johnstown Councilman Richard Delfino III came under public fire for helping force a popular local restaurant out of business after the owner had hosted a fundraiser for his opponent. Delfino convinced his fellow councilman not to renew the Music Man's licenses to operate, saying there were parking problems in a parking lot shared by 8 other businesses. Delfino did not file papers in June to run for re-election. In August, the Stephen Hopkins Center for Civil Rights filed a lawsuit against the councilman and the town seeking unspecified damages. In Smithfield, Alberto LaGreca, who had served on the town council for nearly 2 decades, finished 7th in a race for 5 seats. Our investigation revealed he had defaulted on a taxpayer-funded loan with a balance of nearly $90,000 when LaGreca's seafood processing business went bankrupt in 2015. Smithfield voter Linda St. Angelo emailed the Hummel Report last month saying, "I am embarrassed to say that as a longtime Smithfield resident, I was not aware of this information. Thank you for educating me and many of my neighbors. Clearly this made a difference on Election Day." In East Providence, the term of embattled first-term Councilman Brian Faria will end on January 7th, after he did not file papers to run for re-election. Our investigation in April discovered Faria had an extensive criminal record dating to the 1990s. In June, the city's police chief issued an explosive report that chronicled Faria's erratic behavior and abusive conduct with city employees. Faria then found himself in Superior Court answering to the city's demand for him to return hundreds of pages the councilman took from City Hall during an 11-hour overnight stay in April. Superior Court Judge Maureen Keogh found him in contempt of court and has ordered the soon-to-be former councilman to pay the city's legal fees for its attempts to recover the documents. The city is in the process of determining what that dollar figure will be.
We reported in October that former state senator Chris Maselli of Johnston had been working as a bail commissioner despite spending 2 years in federal prison on bank charges. Well, we found that that did not sit well with the communities where he was assigned.
District Court Chief Judge Jean LaFazia, who was aware of Maselli's criminal record and defended appointing him, found all of the communities he was assigned to no longer wanting his services after our story. Johnston Mayor Joseph Policina and State Police Colonel Anna Sumpico dropped him after learning about his background. Cranston Mayor Alan Fung directed his police chief to contact the judge with his concerns, telling the Hummel Report in October, quote, "We believe it is inappropriate for Maselli to serve in this role after being convicted of bank fraud." A spokesman for Fung said last week, quote, "Judge LaFazia approved his request to no longer assign him to the Cranston Police rotation of bail commissioners. Cranston Police is directed to no longer use him." Court spokesman Craig Berkey said in an earlier email that Maselli had not been reassigned to any other communities and is not currently working anywhere as a bail commissioner.
Last month's story about taxpayer-funded cell phone use and abuse by Providence City Council members prompted one of their colleagues to submit a resolution to try to clean it up.
Councilman Sam Zurier submitted a resolution earlier this month supporting a November directive by Council President David Salvatore that all council members review their bills and reimburse the city for international calls or overages. That sparked a heated discussion during the council's last regularly scheduled meeting of the year. Councilwoman Sabina Matos, who is poised to take the gavel next month as council president from Salvatore, said she believed the matter should have been handled administratively and not in the form of a resolution. Councilwoman Mary Kay Harris, who has logged phone calls of 3 and 4 hours at a time, said she was insulted by Zurier's putting the resolution on the docket. After a lengthy discussion, the council voted down the resolution.
We'll be ready to hit the ground running in 2019, and if you have a tip or a story idea, send it to me directly and confidentially at jim@hummelreport.org.